Good morning, everyone. It's Saturday, which means it's time for yet another Salty Saturday morning. I am your host, Mr. Kadish, dubbed so by Mexican Iron Man himself, so I take that title with a great deal of pride. Speaking of pride, let me introduce you to my fantastic panel of nerds. Brian from the Popcast. He's here. Hey. He's queer. He's our shield against all things representational.
That's right.
How you doing, Brian?
Not bad. Hanging in there. Had a good night of sleep, so I'm ready to rock and roll and disagree with Odin.
Well, everyone likes to disagree with Odin. In fact, it's a pastime, I'd say.
It is.
Speaking of Odin, the king of the pineapple pizza, the lord of the shelves, he's joining us today. How you doing, Odin?
Oh, I'm doing great. Ready to be right once again.
Do you ever get tired of being right?
No. One can never be tired of being correct almost all the time. Almost.
Except for when I'm right.
That's right, Tom.
Speaking of which, Tom Connors Jr. from Midnight's Edge joining us today. How you doing, Tom? Where's your cereal? You all done?
I'm not eating cereal today.
No cereal.
I don't eat
today.
as much cereal as you think I do.
Okay, I believe it.
Doctor says I can't.
Well, speaking of doctors, we got Dr. Salty himself.
Whoa. I don't know what's going on with my computer today. It is very angry at me, and it refuses to recognize certain programs as a camera. So I'm rolling this way today. Just got to deal with it.
I love the choppiness.
Yes, well, Alex is at the Podcaster Studio, and we are a highly well-oiled machine professional production. So, of course, everything is falling apart when he's there and I'm not. So welcome, Alex. How you doing today?
What's up, everybody? Thanks for having me again as Dutch Butter's epic replacement. I can't wait to talk about how Elon Musk has a soft underbelly. It's going to be great.
Yes, but our guest of the week is here. Stuttering Craig Skitmus from Sidescrollers, the man, the myth, the legend himself.
I just found out that I'm super irrelevant online. People are yelling at me about how irrelevant I am.
I mean, Blabs has replaced you, Craig. She's risen to prominence.
There will be a day, where we pass the baton to Blabs. Yes,
it's weird when you get like hundreds of people telling you you're irrelevant.
No, it's
like
not.
A Uno swap card.
That's been the last 20 years of my career. Are you kidding me? you can be streaming to you could be getting millions of views every single day, every single month, and people will be like, I have no idea who that person is, or that person's irrelevant.
Yeah,
relevancy is all stupid on the internet. It's amazing. So, anyways, yeah, it's good to be with you boys. I'm glad to be hanging. I'm glad I can finally hang out with you guys. My weekends are stupid at being dad and all that stuff. So. I'm glad to be hanging out with you guys. Thanks for having me.
Well, we always appreciate it when you invite us onto your show, and so we figured we'd return the favor, and we appreciate you taking the time out of your busy weekends to hang out with us for 2 hours. So,
you're my boys, Blues. Sorry.
Yes. Speaking of boys, we have a goal set by Dutch Butters himself of 15 new members during the live stream. So we want to really appreciate if we could hit that goal, and I know that we were already about partway there, and we'll get to that in a minute.
Really? Hell yeah, let's go.
Yeah, baby. Don't forget to clip and comment on the live stream. And if you wouldn't mind, give us a thumbs up because we appreciate that stuff. And guys, after the show, stick around because you will be automatically transferred to The Brain Show. It's not misspelled. It actually is Brane. Not saying they're smart. It's just their names combined. It's Brian and Shane.
It's not that hard.
At 12:30 Pacific.
It's actually not 12:30 today. This is not a joke. I have a proctologist appointment, so we're doing it at 6 o'clock.
Of course.
I'm being honest. I'm 43. It's that time. So it might be a weird stream if I'm in pain the entire time. But yes, I'm doing that right after the show at 1 o'clock, and then at 6:15 we're doing the Brain Show.
Yes, and in the meantime, you can go and check out Mephisto's movie reviews. He does the Real McCoy podcast right after this show, and he's a good friend of the show, so be sure to check all that out. And of course, guys, we also would like to give a big shout out to all the people who support us week after week, our top donators, which are Scotty Dubb, who's still sitting pretty with that $200 super chat. He's our top super chatter and our top contributor so far this year because we reset all the rankings. Also want to give a big shout out to our top gifters, Jillian H, no longer Jillian N. She has gotten married and changed her last initial. We also have Major Chai Chai and Eric Winberg up there. So that's all well and good. And then right now, I want to kind of like get past all like the gatekeeping and the homework and all this other stuff that we got to do at the beginning of every show, and throw it to Craig, because Craig actually did something really amazing, which is he put on his own award show, and it was the real Game Awards, not the fake ones, not the ones
right.
that are in the pockets of big gaming. Craig, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Game Awards? And also, before you get going, there was we have a link in our description here, or a link in our chat to the replay of the Game Awards, and I highly recommend everyone go and check it out, because it was a great show. But Craig, why don't you tell us a little bit about it and some of the reactions that you've been getting from it?
Well, yeah, it's so, I mean, this is something that kind of hit me, I don't know, earlier in 2024. I was like, man, we should do an award show. And I've always thought, honestly, I've always thought award shows were like bloated, stupid, drawn out. And I wanted to do the opposite of what the Jeff Keighley show is with the Game Awards. And look, that is an industry show. It is backed by, it is an illustrious award if you work within the industry. But I have a major problem with that award show, is that the people voting on that award show are all the people that don't matter. It's the traditional access media. And the fact that it's a night, they have one award called the Player's Choice Award, one out of like 50 something awards. That doesn't make any sense at all, because these people who are writing about these things, they're not buying games. They're getting free codes. It's all access. It's all, elbow, shoulder, buddy bullshit. And can I say bullshit?
You just did.
Okay. I don't know. I forgot how lean do you like to keep your.
It's okay, man. Do what you want to do.
Okay, sounds good. But so it was just like, let's do the complete opposite. And like, if you followed my career, really, my career has pretty much been about doing the opposite of everything that's been going on in the video game world, as well as always focusing on like the customer, the gamer, and that's what the Real Game Awards is. And so it's a community show. It's not meant to be super mega high budget. I mean, we'll get there where it's going to be nice and clean and beautiful and 4K and all that stuff, but no tuxedos. I'm never going to have a tuxedo on. That's not what gaming is. We all know that. So let them have their industry show. We'll have our community show. And it was received really well. The whole thing was, yes.
Can I request a tuxedo t-shirt?
Listen, I think I'll actually free admission for anyone in a tuxedo t-shirt.
What about
but that's been a common thing is the gaming space is so stuffy, and it's so stupid because we're talking about video games here. So I wanted to make an alternative, and we have this voting membership thing, which is really, really great. They're the people who more or less fund the award show. And it's been, honestly, everything about the voting membership has been like, it's been totally validated over the last couple of days because of what
oh my God, Paige. He's talking shit about me with my freaking audio problems and video problems.
Oh gosh.
Oh yeah, too.
Yeah, it's Matt.
Oh, cool. Well, yeah, so it's been the response has been overwhelmingly positive, and naturally, anytime you create any sort of alternative, there's going to be like a vocal minority fringe who are just like, "Rrr!" And that's what we saw. We saw people getting upset over like literally nothing. The fact that it exists, the fact that so we included some indie trailers in it. We thought it'd be like a nice little thing to do, and we didn't tell them because we thought they'd see like this bump in sales, which the three that were thankful for it have seen actually a bump in sales. And there's this other little indie shooter that was like, what happened was all the little cockroaches went out, and they were like, did you see you were on this show? And by the way, the show is totally apolitical. It's strictly games, and it's not meant to be political at all. But it's a show that celebrates the best and the worst in the gaming space, which I think, we're not going to do the toxic positivity bullshit. so we were very real, which is why it's the Real Game Awards. And some people don't like reality. So people went, they got upset. They went to this indie game and they more or less backed him into a corner. Make sure you say something about this. And it's like, all right. And look, so now they're seeing like the wrath of like people, like all they had to do was be like, cool, thanks. And so they're like, we're going to distance ourselves from this. And like, hey, I'm sorry, sorry we gave you thousands of people to watch your trailer and hundreds more went in to go wish list your game on Steam. But they were really pissed about it because people because people told them to be pissed. So so there's that, but it was fun. I really enjoyed putting together. Next year we're going to do it live. And I like all that negative stuff. Like I said, it's just a vocal fringe, overwhelming positive response. And it's been great. So looking forward to bringing it back next year. And like I said, doing it live instead of pre-recorded and kicking some ass. So yeah, it's really fun.
Well, I have a suggestion: pre-record some of it so you can have production value, and then do all the extra stuff live.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, there'll be lots of pre-recorded elements to it. I mean, so my vision for this thing, I haven't even laid this out publicly, but so my vision for this thing is there's this big ass beautiful arcade in Dallas that is like, several hundred people can fit in. And I want this thing to be more than just an award show. I want this to be like an event, not just like an experience. I'm big on experiences. So when you buy a ticket to the Real Game Awards, not only do you get the award show, you get your food paid for, you get your drinks, you get some merchandise, and you get to like, so it's like an experience. And then while we're doing the award show, we have some, this is a big ass arcade that has a huge stage and lighting and all sorts of stuff. Excuse me, Diet Dr. Pepper. But I want to like have our, like tournaments and stuff going on while the award show. Like this is not like a sit down and see what's going on stage thing. You are listening to the awards while you're in a tournament on Street Fighter or you're playing whatever. I think that's really fun. I love that idea of making this like an experiential thing as opposed to just something that you sit down and watch and enjoy and figure out who the winners are. So that's my vision for this thing, and I'm really excited for it. So we'll get there, and we're gonna take some steps to it next year. And so overall, I mean, pretty big success. I'm really happy, and it's always you're always walking on pins and needles when you do something like this. But turns out the response was great.
That's awesome.
Well, speaking of successful awards, we got OMB's Raven Awards. Link in the chat. Go and vote on that. That's the alternative to the crappy Oscars.
Let's go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's go.
7 years now that I've been doing it, and it's always a blast. It's always fun. There's no stakes involved at all. Production value is exactly what you would expect it to be. And, if the Oscars maybe learned a little bit from it, maybe they'd actually have more people actually watching them. So it's a ton of fun, though. So, yeah, get your votes in now.
And speaking of votes, guys, we got Anthony Mark with a members chat for 18 months. 45 becomes 47. Make America great again. Salty Justice Warrior. Yes, indeed. Trump's the biggest salty justice warrior out there. I don't know if you guys knew that or not. And then we got Juliet, a member for 4 months. Good evening, Salty Nerds panel and chat. Good evening, Juliet. So, guys, the queen of gifted memberships herself has graced us with her presence. Jillian H., the artist formerly known as Jillian N., gifted us 5 Salty Nerd Podcast memberships. And of course, Sugar Daddy, Sidescrollers, the big baller, drops 10 Salty Nerd Podcast members. So we have met our goal for the live stream today. We appreciate that. And not to be outdone, we have Mexican Iron Man. We got the Taco Bell queued up, Tom.
I didn't know he was watching. I'm sitting here eating junk food.
He's always watching.
What the hell?
I may be Mexican in 2025, but at least I'm consistent and legal. Consistent and
You're
legal.
white, Mike. Your birth certificate says white.
So, by the way, I see in your chat somebody was mentioning Magic Spoon, and if anybody goes and buy a Magic Spoon, buy using magicspoon.com/sidescrollers
or /Popcast. I'm just saying.
And Popcast. There you go. There you go.
Hey,
We also got sponsorship.
Magic Spoon's no joke. I love that cereal.
They never sponsored us because I'm a fat ass.
Eric Winberg, 1 Salty Nerd gifted podcast membership. Thank you, Eric. Always appreciate you. You know who isn't very appreciative nowadays, though, guys, is Elon Musk. And he has come clean about some fibbing that he did. So I don't know if you guys remember last week's show, we kind of talked about the feud that Elon Musk was having with Asmongold. And basically, the controversy was all about how Asmongold was calling out Elon Musk for not actually achieving the ranks that he said he achieved in what was it, Path of Exile 2 and Diablo 4. And there were a lot of people who were kind of like looking through his gameplay stuff and saying like, this guy plays like he's never played this game before. And Asmongold put him on blast. And then Elon came out and started leaking DMs, that private DMs he had with Asmond and all this other stuff. But guess what, guys? Turns out the gaming community was right. And Elon admits to having multiple people playing on his account so that he could hit that top ranked in hardcore mode, which is basically, if you play these games, you know that if you die once, your character and all your progress is wiped out. You have to start over again. Yeah, complete reset. And Elon finally came out and admitted, he was like, hey, you know, but he did kind of like hedge his bets when it came to like the criticism he had for Asmongold, because basically Asmongold said that if Elon could prove that like he actually played these accounts, he would simul stream his stuff to X instead of just doing YouTube and Twitch. And I think Elon got butthurt that Asmon isn't utilizing the X platform, and so like he kind of like went after him a little bit on that. But Craig, I'd like
otherly known as the homeless guy.
The homeless guy. Thank you, Brian.
Professional homeless man. Yes.
Yeah.
Craig, I wanted to get your take on this. So first of all, what did you think of this feud to begin with, and what do you think about Elon coming clean about how he kind of cheesed the system?
Well, I think that it's great for Asmongold, right? Anytime something like this pops up, the person who's talking about it is the one who's going to benefit from it most, and who's at the center of it. So good for him. You know, people are like, Elon ruined all his credibility with gamers. And my thought is we talked about this on our show, but everybody has their equivalent of the fish that they caught that got bigger over the years, right? You know, there's the old, like, I once caught a fish this big, right? And then the next year it's this big. And then it's, oh my gosh, I caught this fish that was this big. But with gaming, right? Everyone has their gaming. Well, this one time I did this and it was awesome, right? And I think that's what happened with Elon. Was he was like, look, I'm one of the best, whatever. And in reality, it's like nobody with a logical brain could look at that and be like, yeah, that makes sense. This guy runs 3 billion, $3, $4, $5 billion companies, and he has enough time to grind it out on this game. So, it's like, I thought it was a big nothing burger, but some people are extremely offended by it, and awesome. If they really want to be that offended by it, that's really great. I hope that they, they're probably, I would say, go outside on the weekend, but they're probably sitting down playing Path of Exile 2 right now. I think this is the equivalent of the fish that the fish that somebody caught, and he just got caught. It's like if somebody was to go back and be like, no, I have video of you catching that fish, and it was actually this big, So, yeah, it's. I don't know. Elon Musk is an interesting cat. Does he do everything right? No. Do I do everything right? No. Does anybody here do anything right? No. But he's a lot fucking smarter than me. I promise you that. And a lot more rich. So,
well, Brian, I want to throw this to you. Why do you think a multi-billionaire, one of the richest men in the world, who runs some of the most advanced companies this planet has ever seen, and who is also like the right-hand man of the president, champion of free speech, feels the need to go to war over his status in 2 video games?
He's a true autistic gamer. That's what that is. He's like, I'm a gamer. Yes, richest guy on the planet. I'm the right hand of the most powerful man on the planet. But don't mess with my gaming cred. I'm just saying, don't do it. I'm going to pay people to make sure my gaming cred is top notch. I mean, if that's not an autistic gamer, I don't know what is, dude.
Well, and color me shocked that the richest man in the world would have an ego.
Right.
It's like, okay,
narcissism comes with the package, right?
Right.
Well, Alex, you run
Yeah.
the Nerd Gaming channel. What's your take on Elon basically coming out and saying like, yeah, I paid people to play these games for me?
I'm pretty much in the same ballpark as Craig over here. It's like shocker, like whoa, who knew the guy that runs all these companies has all this time to grind this super high quality, difficult game. It's like Craig said, it's a nothing burger to me, but I do find it more interesting the fact that he retaliated against Asmongold for calling him out on this. That's where the soft spot that I kind of find is like, let's dig into that a little bit. Because if this little thing, irritates him or offends him or gets him to censor and or like remove somebody's ability to make money on X because they pissed him off in some weird way, that's the most concerning part to it to me. It's not so much like I don't care if the guy plays games or not. I don't care if he pays other people to play games for him. That doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
What matters to me is his reaction to it and the real world consequences of somebody that powerful being upset at something so trivial. That's the part that's like, whoa, that's a little kink in the armor there, bud. That kind of freaked me out a bit. I like Elon. I think he's a great force of good in the world so far. I'm just hoping that doesn't backfire in some weird way.
Well, Odin, what's really interesting about this whole controversy is that, once again, the power of YouTubers is on full display, where basically you had a small group of Path of Exile live streamers and fans and stuff like that making videos on this that eventually blew up into like essentially embarrassing one of the most rich and powerful men on the planet. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that he came clean with it, but then at the same time, it does, I think, reveal that he is not a human being. I'm sorry, he is a human being. Sorry, he is not a human.
Odin reveals all.
He is not
Zuckerberg
a
and
human.
Elon.
He's a cyborg. It's just
Here we go again. Birds aren't real.
Simulation. No, but he's clearly human and he makes mistakes. But I think it also hopefully brings him down a peg in a lot of people's minds, because I think especially with the 2024 election, a lot of people put him on this pedestal and just and put him on this like, I don't care what he's done, I don't care what he does, he did X for me or he did X for my guy, and so therefore I'm just gonna like give him passes and everything. And I don't think that's a good way of just going about things. And so hopefully it at least reduces that somewhat, because he has a lot of things that are worthy of criticism, and clearly honesty is one of them.
Well, Tom, I think from reading this article, by the way, everyone, articles are linked in the description if you want to do your own research. The thing that appears to have upset Elon the most is that Asmongold wasn't using X for a video or live streaming, and that seems to be like the thing that really got his ire. And I know that X has announced that they're putting in like a video feed to kind of compete with TikTok. There's been rumors that Elon's going to buy TikTok with the Trump brokered purchase to avoid the ban. And then TikTok does have plans to do like, video on like TVs, through apps and stuff like that. Do you think that this was more of a kind of like a response to Elon feeling slighted that Asmongold wasn't using his platform, or was it just that Elon has an ego and he wanted to beat all the hardcore players in China?
No, and I don't care.
Okay, then.
Well,
good talk.
I really could care less about what Elon and some gamer are fighting about, to be honest with you. I don't even know what an Asmongold is. By the way, Craig, I'm like the least gamiest person in the world. Have you ever heard of the game Galaga? That's about my speed.
That's cool. No worries, man. It's everyone's got their flavor of ice cream, and that's cool.
Yeah. Well, have you guys ever heard of Hemorrhoid Hurts?
My bigger issue was the sharing of the DMs. That was pretty low.
Yeah, that was pretty low. But what isn't low is $2 Australian from Hemorrhoid Hurts. Good morning, friends, chat, and panel. Congrats, Craig. Yes, congrats, Craig.
Thanks, Mr. Hertz.
Yes, really appreciate all the work that you put into showing the woke gaming industry that normal people exist and they have opinions.
I think that, sorry to interrupt, but like I feel like that's the biggest crazy thing about this is like all we did was just like, did you see the stat this past week that was talking about the number of women and non-binary developers in the industry?
Yes.
It was like 36% or something like that. 36.
It was up from 25% 2 years ago to 36%.
Like,
I think.
And do you see the other stat around the number of male players for the Nintendo Switch? What that was like? It was like 85%, 86%. And then I'm going to go on a little rant here, but we've heard forever from the ESRB that gaming is a 50-50 split between male and female. And anybody who's ever played a game or ever been to a convention knows that's a bold-faced lie, right?
Anyone who's ever tried to get laid. Yeah.
So if you see these stats, right, and you hear about this representation in video games, right? Like, I know who the audience is. I've been to these conventions. I've been in this industry for 20 years. I've seen who these people are, who the normal people are, normal men. That's who our audience is. So if you're upset about what we're doing at Sidescrollers or the Real Game Awards or any other thing that we announce, you're the outlier. You're the one who's the outlier who is not the normal one, right? We cater to that 80% that's not insane, right? They're 10% over here, 10% over here. We got that 80% audience over here. So if you have a problem with what we're doing, it's probably a you thing and not an us thing.
We should also probably point out that 50-50 stat that you mentioned, that includes mobile games like, Candy Crush and crap like that. Actually, so it's not really representative, I think.
Well, you say that, but according to the ESRB, they say 50% of console players specifically are female, which that's
definitely not true.
No, 0% chance.
Like, I could see an argument being made because I, being a teacher at a high school, like, I know, like, the girls, they have their games that they will play and the guys have their games that they will play. And you could maybe make that point, but console games, it's just, I could take a poll of my class and you would have probably, 7 out of every 10 guys are playing some game, and then maybe 1, if even then, of the girls would be playing.
Yeah, I have 2 13-year-old girls, and they both play Fortnite on console. However, the majority of the gamers are mobile Candy Crush type gamers. Whenever a girl says, "Oh, I'm a gamer," it means that she has the games on her phone 90% of the time.
And to be clear, I posted a tweet about, okay, so here it is right here, the ESRB gaming demographics, right? Nearly 50% of U.S. console gamers are female. Lies. Yeah, absolute lies. Because once again, I have 2 daughters, right? And do they play games on consoles? Yes. But I think there's a big difference between playing a game once a month or twice a month and being an obsessive hobby like you see for dudes. And that's what it is, Yeah,
one of my kids, it's an obsessive hobby. It's like a 6-hour-a-day thing. The other one just wants to go out and hang out with her friends.
Yeah. And to be clear, once again, women have always been welcome in the space. 100%. Please, like, they can come and go as they see, but it's just a fact of life. I'm sorry that it hurts people's feelings.
You guys know, pride for me that my wife loves playing video games. We get together. Date night for us is turning on the Switch and playing Zelda together.
And that'd be so nice.
Smash Brothers and all kinds of cool stuff.
Awesome, man. That's great.
My wife hates video games.
Do you guys know what isn't cool?
No.
I'm playing a video game right now.
Star Trek isn't cool. And Star Trek is officially dead,
apparently.
No! Because basically, I don't know if anybody cared or noticed, but they released their long-awaited Section 31 movie.
Oh, so bad.
And the reviews have been coming in hot and heavy, and they've
Does
all been
Academy
negative.
know that it's dead?
Even the shilliest of shills, IGN, gave this thing a 2.
Yeah.
It's bad when even IGN can't shill for it.
I didn't know they knew that number.
Yeah, it's very low. But our own Tom Connors here says Section 31 is horrendous. I'm not finishing this shit.
I didn't either. I got about 5-10 minutes. I don't remember where. Whenever they get to the scene in the bar, and she calls out the Section 31 people for being the most obvious fucking people in the room, I'm like, yeah, screw this show. I'm like, this is dumb.
Yeah. And then we have the Trek experts themselves, the Popcast brothers. They said, I watched Section 31. As a generic science fiction movie, it's mediocre at best. As a Star Trek movie, it's just bad. After 30 years as a Trek fan, I've always looked forward to new Star Trek content until Section 31. Normally, when Paramount sends Trek screeners, I'm excited to watch, even if I expect disappointment. But this time, when the wonderful marketing team sent us an early copy of Section 31, I felt something new: apathy. I simply didn't care. Section 31 comes across as generic sci-fi slop, reminding me of a mediocre Firefly with unimportant Star Trek references scattered throughout. Not even the captivating Michelle Yeoh or the hilarious Sam Richardson could manage to keep me entertained. I suggest skipping this one and watching our 2-hour Voyager documentary.
I agree with that handsome guy.
I got to push back a little bit because I've seen a few people say, well, it's okay for generic sci-fi. Is it though? Because your main fucking character kills their own family in the intro scene.
I've seen a lot of sci-fi,
that's something
bro.
that's irredeemable.
Listen, I
Like, there
wrote
used
those
to be
words.
this
There's a lot of sci-fi out there. It's mediocre, generic sci-fi.
No,
I've
no,
seen
I'm
a lot
talking
of bad sci-fi.
Okay. That's not my point, though. You're not listening to what I'm saying. I'm talking about the fundamental unwritten rule when it comes to movie stories. If you have a character that does something so irredeemable, it doesn't matter what they do for the rest of the movie. They're still either going to die or something bad's going to happen to them.
Have you watched
It's just an
The
unsaid rule.
Expanse, Under the Dome?
I'm sorry, I can't get behind a
Claire and
character who
I,
kills their own
hijinks.
family. There's no way I can ever forgive that
I
and
know,
actually
but-
root for that character.
I know.
Well,
There's
I
a lot
don't
of-
give a
there's a lot
shit
of
what
characters in
show it
sci-fi.
is.
Okay, don't make me cut anyone's mic. But
Damn.
I'm gonna throw this to Brian, because Brian, you tried to tempt me with an early screening of
I did.
Section 31.
Shut
And
up! Oh,
I
you
was-
can't say that to people.
I was so apathetic that I was like, well, you invited me to your house to come watch it with you, and I was like,
Right.
yeah, I know. I just don't care. I just
Didn't have good
don't
enough
care.
snacks, Brian. Didn't have good enough snacks.
That was a good choice, good sir.
Yes.
Yes,
Craig, you're muted, bud.
and I got the early screening like a month and a half ago, right? It was a while ago.
But it was funny because, like, when I was talking to you about it, I was like, how is it? And you were like, I'm liking it. But did you change your mind?
It was. I told you I was liking it. I was about 10 minutes into it when they introduced the team, and I'm like, I can see how this might be fun. I'm watching it in pieces. About halfway through, I'm realizing that this is really, really bad Star Trek. So, from a generic science fiction point of view, it's okay. It's okay. Like, there's parts of it that are sort of interesting and world building, but as a Star Trek movie, it's really, really bad because it strips everything that makes Star Trek out of the genre. Like, this is not a Star Trek film. This is generic sci-fi slop with Star Trek references. And that's what makes it so bad, because everything that makes Star Trek has been removed from the movie. It is the opposite. It's literally the opposite of Star Trek. It's the antithesis of Star Trek. It doesn't work. But yeah, for about 10 minutes in the movie, I'm like, I can enjoy this. I might be able to enjoy this. And then it just got worse and worse and worse. Granted, I think Richardson is really funny. I've been a fan of him for a long time. But all of his comedy and like his normal quips slowly started to leave. So it started off sort of heavy whenever they went to him, and he just became more and more cucked throughout the movie and was no longer interesting. And while I like Michelle Yeoh, I gotta say, like, you give her like a ton of dialogue heavy stuff, and it gets tiresome. And it's because, she doesn't speak great English. She's a great actress, but she doesn't speak great English. And they had her trying to do really intricate, like, dialogue scenes that just didn't work. Especially, I'm turning on subtitles, trying to understand what was going on. And it's the sound mix was bad. This movie got worse and worse the longer it went. And I agree with Tom. The whole, like, the hero of the movie killing her family and all that, 100%. That's crazy. It's bad storytelling. But that's not what made the movie bad. What made the movie bad was everything else. Like the actual scenes they're shooting on. They're obviously shooting on like those 3D wall sound sets or something. Everything looks really bland, but they put a lot of coloring into it, almost like a cyberpunk type of coloring, to try to make it look futuristic and hip. And it just didn't work. It just didn't work. So, like, take away the Star Trek part and just go, oh, this science fiction movie. It's just sort of bland and mediocre. Add Star Trek to it, and it's a horrible movie. That's me.
Well, Alex, for a while there, we were watching the original series. We were going episode by episode, doing a
Yeah, how
breakdown.
fun was that?
That was a lot of fun. And like when you compare the original series, which is a classic, to the kind of drivel that Paramount's putting out with Star Trek nowadays, is it any wonder that nobody cares anymore?
No, they're taking themselves way too freaking seriously. Like these new dark and brooding and action-filled Star Trek shows and stuff like that are meant to be like, oh, let's modernize Star Trek. That's not what made Star Trek good. It wasn't the freaking phaser graphics and the ship battles. It was the writing and the intrigue and the relationships between the characters. I have not seen or heard about anything that I care about as far as Star Trek goes since season 3 of Picard, which, by the way, another reason why I'm kind of like, I'm not going to check into Star Trek ever again, because season 3 of Picard was so universally enjoyed by both the harshest of critics and the happiest of people that love everything with the label Star Trek on it. It was just so good. The fact that whoever's in charge at Paramount or whoever's in charge over there at the Star Trek IP office going, well, you know what? Here's the most popular thing we've produced in the last 10 years. That's great. I'm not going to greenlight anything after that. Terry Metalis doesn't get jack shit. There's no sequel ready. I'm like, we're not going to do a TV show. We're not going to do anything. We're just going to leave it. And we're going to go with this Section 13 bullshit. Like, idiotic maneuver to allow this franchise to die this way, and I just don't care. I'm completely apathetic to it. I'll watch the Next Generation with my kids. I'll watch the original trilogy for some the original series for some laughs, but that's it. Like, Star Trek is essentially cooked. It's completely cooked.
Yeah, it's cooked.
Yeah, Craig, one of the interesting things about this is that in the video game industry, they haven't been listening to their audience, and they've been making stuff that the audience has been rejecting and ignoring. Star Trek's been doing this since, I'd argue, J.J. Abrams was in charge, right? Where like the audience keeps telling them what they want, and they keep refusing to give it to them. What do you think could save Star Trek at this point?
Well, like I'm not a Star Trek fan, but this is a trend that we see across all forms of entertainment, to where you have these people who are in their echo chambers. They don't realize that there's an entire audience out there telling them what they want, and they refuse to listen. Right? This is like I said, a common reoccurrence that if they got off Blue Sky, if they got they got off X, and actually sat down and talked with some real people, not like a focus group in Hollywood, but actually went out and did some private. I think it'd be really interesting to see if they actually sat down and talked, maybe went to some conventions. Hey, what do you guys want to see? These are your hardcore fans, right? So you want to go ask them. And I mean, that's actually a really interesting idea, holding like a focus group at a convention, at a fan convention. That'd be pretty huge. But it seems like such a simple solution. And that's the thing I don't understand, is you just listen to your audience. Listen to what the audience tells you. You don't need to inject anything silly into what's going on. And there's also another issue, right? And that is a lot of these franchises that we see this in video games, where, the people who made the original franchise, the original entry in the franchise, they're no longer a part of it anymore, right? So the studio that you once loved, the people that made that studio, the studio that you loved, are no longer there. So you love it in name only. And that's what I think we're seeing with some of these pop culture franchises, with Star Wars, right? Star Trek. You can go down the list for a lot of these pop culture entities, and you'll see the same thing, where people are like, man, I really love X. But what they're actually saying is, I loved X when I was 20 years ago, or whatever it may be, right? Whenever I was first exposed to it. So it's a reoccurring theme.
100%.
Well, Tom, what's it going to take for Paramount to fire Alex Kurtzman? Like, how bad does he has to mess up in order to get replaced at this point?
First of all, they got to sell the company. Like, right now they're in such turmoil because of the whole Skydance deal. And then you got another offer they just had come in this week. So they're dealing with all that. And from what we've heard, that Bad Robot is all wrapped up into, or not Bad Robot, Secret Hideout, sorry, is all wrapped up into Star Trek anyway. So they got to wait him out. And that's where I guess this rumor about taking a break for 5 years is coming from.
What's that rumor? I haven't heard that one.
Well, there's just a rumor going around that Trek needs a 5-year break, and there's people that are expressing that behind the scenes that's what they need to do after this Academy thing. Because if you notice, there's nothing in production after Academy.
Yeah, they're right. Yeah, he's right. There's nothing in production. Yeah, but they needed that 5-year break like 2 years ago.
But I think it has more to do with them waiting out Kurtzman's contract than it has to do with anything else.
Imagine
'Cause I
just
think they
taking a break
realize
from
how-
Star Trek
yeah.
to wait out the contract. That'd be wild, right?
I think that's what it's about, because I think they have no other option other than buying him out right now. And I know that was always part of the talk, but now there's in this new offer they have is bigger than what Skydance was offering. And rumor is that Elon Musk might be one of the investors.
Oh, of course.
Hey, it is a legit question. How many things does Elon?
If it isn't Elon, it's Bezos. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Steady.
Sure. How many things does Elon have to own until people are like,
I'm at the point. I'm at the point now. Right now. Right now is the point.
or if he's like, guess what? I own Star Trek, right? Or it's like, oh, okay,
It would still be in better hands. It has been so mismanaged for the last decade. It's insane. More than that.
Odin, would you say that Star Trek has been more mismanaged than Star Wars at this point?
It's hard to say just because
That's tough.
I'm not
For
as much
longer.
into Trek as I am into Star Wars. Like I've seen, as far as like actual like visual content, pretty much everything from Star Wars. Where for Star Trek, I always mention this. My knowledge is all of DS9, which was my first actual like fully watching from first to end, and really enjoyed that show quite a bit. I've of course started watching the original series, still about where I was, back towards the end of the summertime, because I just haven't had any time during the school year to really watch too many more episodes. But a good halfway through the first season, and have also been enjoying it quite a bit. And when I was growing up, right, Next Generation was on every now and then, especially whenever we would travel. We'd go on camping trips, and we'd drive halfway across the country. It's like Colorado, and so we'd stay in these hotels where at that time you only had maybe 3 or 4 free channels, and on syndication was Star Trek Next Generation. So I'm coming in from that angle, and so in my opinion, it's Star Wars that's been more mismanaged because that's the one that I have the most experience with. But there's definitely an argument to be made, I think, for both sides, because Star Trek really has gone downhill so much. I did not mind the J.J. Abrams film from back in 2009, but again, that's my background there. Just again, I think probably makes more sense to why I didn't have as many issues. And then as I've learned more about it, I've realized why so many fans had issues with, especially Into Darkness and after that as well. And everything I've been hearing about the newer Trek has just been awful. And my first really like watching anything in its entirety from New Trek was Section 31. And even then only got halfway through the movie before I was like, okay, not only am I just not having time to finish this, but I really just don't want to finish this because it's bad. It's just in every level, whether you go generic sci-fi or Star Trek, it is bad. Like the vibes in the very beginning were Rebel Moon vibes. Like that's how bad it was. And, going to Tom's point, yeah, when you start off with a character where they kill their family and then the whole point is trying to like redeem their character, it's like, no, I'm sorry. Like that's just not the way you start off a story, and how you actually carry it out. Not to mention, I like Michelle Yeoh. I thought that she was probably the best part of the actual movie. But when the younger actress playing Michelle Yeoh's character has better English than Michelle Yeoh does, that's a big problem. And that creates a
100%.
bit of consistency issues too. Because you're like, wait a minute, how does your English get worse as you've gotten older? That doesn't make any sense at all.
That's so weird. I had the same thought.
And I'm
dude.
like, Michelle Yeoh, you're great, but like that they did not do well with you, like with casting your younger half, right? It just didn't really work in that capacity. And because my knowledge though is DS9, and I had to kind of remind myself of a few things. I had forgotten that Section 31 was introduced in many ways in DS9, and with the torture of Bashir's character, and a lot of the other elements there. I think Gul Dukat had interactions with Section 31 as well. And it's like, that's like William Sadler was like who I knew Section 31 to be. And he's like wearing like the black leather, just very secretive, clearly like, very deep ops. And what we got was an attempt at Suicide Squad in Star Trek is what it felt like. And it was
Sounds
bad.
so gross.
It was so bad.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, that's the
you know,
problem with Section 31 is it's the worst kept secret in Star Trek. Everybody knows about it.
yeah, and
Why do you have black badges, dude? Just have regular badges.
you guys You guys keep bringing up Michelle Yeoh's character killing her family at the start of the movie. Do you guys remember how like she used to eat kelpians?
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Is if you haven't seen the show, how do you know what you're watching? That's the other question I have. How could anybody not be completely lost? Sure, you get that little intro bit that feels like you're about to play a video game, but like honestly, I don't know how you would
Has
know
the
any of
glitching?
what's going on if you haven't watched Discovery.
Yeah, I mean, she's eating eyeballs. I think they tried to like show how much of a monster she is / was.
And I don't understand the timeline of this too, because somebody was explaining to me, because I think it was Gary of Nerdrotic had said that the star date doesn't make any sense, because if you guys remember, Discovery takes place during the TOS era, right? Then they went into the fucking future. And then I don't remember what happened. Did they wind up someplace back in time somehow? Because now she's in the TNG era somehow?
So no, I'll tell
Yeah.
you. Discovery takes place between Enterprise and TOS.
Yeah.
Right. And they go to the future.
Yeah, they go
And-
way into the future, like
like
fucking
900 years
uber
in the future.
Yeah.
Well, because she went so far in the future and she's not from our universe. This is so fucking stupid, by the way.
I remember this. Yeah, they had to like make her like part
they
of
they had to send her either back in time or back to her own universe because it was like ripping her apart because you
That's
can't
right.
go
Yes. Okay.
so
So she
far
wound
into
up.
the future and away because like
So she wound up in the TNG era, basically.
You're right. So because the timelines like disengaged, she was being pulled apart. So they basically sent her back into time into the TNG area. Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
trying to
true.
remember. I knew it's
Stupid. It's stupid. So stupid. It's so stupid. I'm not defending. I'm just saying that's what they said.
Yeah, they basically had to like sew her to this timeline, is what it was.
Right.
It was so stupid.
It's so stupid. Discovery was look. If you want to say what was worse, section 31 of Discovery, Discovery is still worse. Discovery is the worst Star Trek to ever exist, and I think Discovery is one of the worst science fiction shows to ever exist. And yes, I'm including Under the Dome season 3. Okay, I'm telling you right now, Discovery is by far the what started Star Trek's descent into madness.
Well, before we even knew that she straight up killed her family, right? We already knew she was Space Hitler in this other galaxy, which
Right.
never made sense to me to begin with, is why in the world they ever thought she could be a redeemable character. Because let's think about it, because she's from the mirror universe, the same mirror universe where like everybody has mustaches, remember?
Right, goatees.
So,
right. Goatees.
so
right.
like, yeah. So see, she's from this area where, and she's supposed to be one of the worst there.
She's the worst there. In the
So you
worst
bring her
universe,
here-
she's the worst person. Right.
She's got to be like Bin Laden meets Hitler times 20 here. Like, that's my point. Like, yet they use her for Section 31 and they just pal around with her and shit. It's like,
So
This-
many bad ideas in Discovery, and the fact that the projects that they're continuing with are based on Discovery when Discovery is the worst of all Star Trek makes no sense. Section 31 made no sense to keep that character going, no matter how great Michelle Yeoh is. Let's be real. So Michelle Yeoh is a great actress. Well, they signed that deal after the Everywhere All at Once. They're like, oh, we got to get more Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah.
See, I heard
She
it was
was
actually
already tied to such a
before that.
shitty, irredeemable character. So it was
See, I heard it was before that. See, here's the deal
I
I
don't know.
heard. I don't know if you heard differently, but this is what I heard, because this Section 31 show was talked about way back when Discovery was first on. And this is something this has been Kurtzman's little baby for years.
end
that he's
of
trying to get off the
season
ground.
2 with the control.
Now, what happened is Michelle Yeoh started getting busy. So they had to keep pushing it back. And then she had a window, and they told them that if you're going to do this, it's now or never, because she is busy. And that was even before she won the Oscar, from what I remember hearing. And then after she won the Oscar, they were telling Star Trek it was basically impossible for her to sign on to a show. And they gave her $12 million to buy her out of that contract and did this movie, which is basically a backdoor pilot that they were hoping would be popular enough that they could work it out into a show.
That ship has sailed. But
Exactly.
now we have Star Trek Academy, which is based in the future on Discovery still. Like, I don't imagine being the studio right now, seeing Section 31 completely fail miserably and go, oh my God, Academy is still coming out. We still have reshoots. We still have marketing. We still have to spend money. And out of between Section 31 and Academy, even the haters like me were like, I would rather watch a Section 31 over Star Fleet Academy. Oh my God. I'm going to watch Discovery, but it's even more emotional, has even more insane pronouns. It's like, let's take the worst part of the worst Star Trek show and amplify that to 10 and make it about teenagers in the future. Oh God. It sounds so bad.
You know, it's not bad, guys. Our super chats. We got one from Darth Maul's lower half.
Look
for
at that
5
transition.
euros.
Sorry.
So the segues,
Great stuff. Way to go. Love that.
My God.
I keep hearing that we have won the woke war, but what have we won other than a pile of ash? There's nothing left. What is there to look forward to? Well, in terms of Star Trek, that's true. I think, every time, like, we can kind of gauge, interest level of fan communities based off like the videos we release. And I know that Brian and Shane have been struggling because like they did a lot of Star Trek content. And whenever we release videos about Star Trek, they get like 0 views because like nobody ever cares. Nobody cares about that franchise anymore. And it's sad.
We were the Star Trek channel for a little bit. And now I'm like, can't do that no more.
And like Star Trek, when I worked at Paramount,
25% different. We fucking coined that term.
That's true. You did.
Yeah. When I worked at Paramount, Star Trek was known as the Golden Goose. It was the thing that kept that studio afloat in hard times because the fan base was always there. They would always show up for it. You could make Star Trek really cheap, and it would always make its money back and then some. But in this new day and age, they've completely run that franchise into the ground. And even the hardest core fans, like they don't care anymore. They'll watch the original series on their Blu-ray DVDs, and that's about it. They're not showing up for any of the new stuff. They're not buying any of the merch. They're not doing anything. All the licensees, which is where the real money from Star Trek is, are having trouble moving any of their
they've had to
licensed
admit
stuff.
they're pissed because they're forced to take Discovery licenses with the other licenses. Did you hear about that?
Oh, I read that. I read that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to fill us in, Tom?
Yeah, basically what's pissing off all these licensees is whenever they want to get something Star Trek to do, like, a Picard figure or something from TOS, Kurtzman and crew will say, yeah, you can do that, but you got to take something from Discovery as well. So that's why, like, with the Funko Pops, you got one of Saru and Michelle or Mikey Spock, and same thing with the figures. You got a Mikey Spock and a Saru character and stuff like that, because they're basically forced to have to do those if they want to do the other ones. And even
crazy.
Who was it? McFarlane, I think, even admitted to that too, because a bunch of their Trek stuff was going on discount shelves because they couldn't sell it because this stuff is just nobody wants it anymore.
Who wants a lifelike figure of Michelle Burnham? Michael
Nobody.
Burnham. No one.
Only Michael Burnham wants a Michael Burnham.
I don't even know if Michael Burnham wants it. He's like, maybe season 4, but definitely not season 1. What was going on with the hair?
Yeah, her hair was crazy all throughout that series.
Kid
Well,
wants his hair back.
She had the haircut from Fifth Element, right? The Chris Rock.
She had the Chris.
No, it's Kid.
Right?
Kid and Play more like
She had.
When he decided
No,
to do it,
it was the Ruby Rod do is what
Ruby
you're-
Rod, right.
it was that too. Yeah.
Guys, speaking of Hollywood being tone deaf to their audience, apparently Trump's win has really bothered them, and so now they're bracing for a backlash.
Wait, really?
Yes.
Wait.
So, guys, there was an article that dropped in Vulture, which is from New York Magazine, a couple days ago, and they kind of talked to some big name Hollywood people, unnamed Hollywood people, by the way, about the reaction to what's going on here in Hollywood, just in terms of like what Trump's inauguration as president, what his policies are going to mean. And they're fully expecting that because he won the popular vote and anti-Trump is not cool anymore, they're expecting a lot of backlash from their core consumer base. And everyone in the Hollywood cocktail parties are basically saying like, yeah, like the hardcore days of activism are over, and we got to get back to more like, entertainment-based content as opposed to propaganda, which is what Hollywood's been pumping out for like the past 10, 8, 20 years, whatever. But they're basically saying like, this is Trump 2.0, so we need to transition to Hollywood 2.0. And I want to start with you, Odin. I want to ask you, just based off of this article, by the way, article link is in the description. How can Hollywood shape pop culture anymore? because Trump's win, like Hollywood tried as hard as it could to convince people to vote for Kamala and before her Joe, and the nation resoundingly rejected them. And so they're sitting there, they're saying like, are we actually trendsetters anymore? Do you think Hollywood is now kind of like downstream from the trends as opposed to the ones creating them?
Definitely seems that way. I mean, because this was the big question mark that I had kind of going into 2024 was how much influence did the media and Hollywood still have? Because they've been able to show in the past just how much they can influence these things, right? We've seen their campaigns, and we've seen that they used to actually be very effective, or at least seemingly effective. And to have been so utterly destroyed after so much money, like astroturfing to hell any type of support for this other person, you know, in Kamala Harris. Honestly, it was pretty amazing to watch, because it was them being put in their place, Hollywood being put in their place, mainstream media being put in their place as well. And that's why now you're seeing, right, these massive layoffs happening at these, you know, mainstream legacy media companies. Why you're seeing them trying to now, you know, way too far behind the game, but starting to invest in online new media. And you could tell, like, probably in the next few years, they're going to start to launch, you know, podcasts, and they're going to start to try to launch in these spaces that they just did not take seriously, or that they just did not really care that much about. And I think that what you're ultimately going to have is a Hollywood and a mainstream media that's playing catch up. And I don't think they're going to be able to catch up, especially in the environment that currently exists. The only thing that could ever possibly help them, I think, would be if in 4 years they're able to, you know, somehow turn the tide and get someone in charge of various actions that basically almost forces their hand to give them all of the benefits and all of the goodies and all the money that they might need, or tax incentives that they might need to you know, kind of catch up. But if that doesn't happen, I think that they crap the bed. They put all their money and all their chips on this horse, and it did not ride.
Well, Tom, that brings me to you. Are celebrities dead? Have they been given away to influencers? Because a big part of this article is about how like big talent managers said that, like, oh, we pimped out our clients to these political campaigns, and nobody paid attention to them. Like, it just fell on deaf ears. So do you think that the concept of celebrity is dead nowadays, and it's kind of given away to influencers?
Well, that's kind of a two-sided coin as far as a question goes. Because, I mean, we just did a video, it just dropped yesterday, about a different article that we probably have an idea of who some of these power players who may be talking to Vulture are, or whoever it was that did this article. Because recently, Bob Iger and Bezos were kissing the ring. They were at Mar-a-Lago. They were hanging out with Trump. And even though there was a bunch of grumbles and groans when they talked about Sylvester Stallone, Jon Voight, and Mel Gibson, all the big producers and stuff are like, what do we do? And they're more than willing to listen, and they have been making some changes. They're starting to come around and realize things need to change. Now, they're going to hit resistance from the movie stars. That's where I think the Oscars are a sign of the final re. And this is what I've been talking about for a while. What is the final re? It's that last ditch effort they have. The fires and the election have expedited everything to a place where they are just grasping at straws now. That's the reason. And I guarantee you this whole Oscars is going to be, guess what, Mr. Trump? There's more than two genders. And we need to fight. We need to fight climate change. That's going to be all the Oscars are, and showing you just how disconnected all these fuckers are. Because guess what? The movie star is dead. It is dead. There has not been a new movie star in years. The closest you can even kind of come to it is like a Chris Pratt. Maybe Timothy Chalamet is coming up there. But a lot of his, he's mostly known because he has a big social media following. And that's the problem with Hollywood right now, too. And they're probably starting to realize is not only did they pimp these people out, they've been basically hiring them based on how many people follow them on social media, which is not working. It's not working. They got to get more connected with the audience again. They know that. They've been trying. They've been cutting the hell out of these movies. That's why they've reshot Captain America 3 times now. Although it's still not going to make any difference, they are aware that there's a problem. You even got Kevin Feige out there admitting that the MCU is in a mess, right? So at this point, they know they've got to fix things. It's going to take a little time. I think the producers and everybody are going to be more than willing to work with Trump, especially to get things going in LA again and Hollywood, because they got to rebuild. That's number one. And I don't know if you guys saw the video yesterday of where Trump just basically just kicked the shit out of the LA mayor, and is like 18 months is too fucking long, right? You can't be doing, and that's what these people want to hear from Trump. And that's where this is getting different, is because you had some people who are producers and other things in that meeting, this big meeting that supposedly went down in Mar-a-Lago, where they said, look, we want to know what you're going to do to help us, and you're actually talking about things to help us. We never heard Biden do that. We didn't have Biden out here trying to help us at all. And can you imagine if Kamala was president right now, what would be going on in LA?
God. Shudder.
You think
Shudder at the
18
thought.
months? Fuck 18 months. You're going to have to wait 3, 4, 5 years before you get a permit, buddy. Good luck. Because guess what? That's where they're at right now. And they were already losing business to other countries and other states. And they need to bring more work back. And that's what all these crew members and producers and other people are talking about. They don't give a shit anymore about this virtue signaling bull crap anymore. They're more worried about, I need to build my home again. I need to find a home, or I need work so I can rebuild my home, right? Like, that's what all these people are saying now, is we need to get back to work. When is this going to happen? And when you got your mayor going, well, maybe 18 months, we can get you going, you know. It's like, no, and Trump's like, fuck that. No, we got to get it tomorrow. We got to get it going now. And when you got, and he's saying, you got to address these people as ambassadors. So he's taking this shit very seriously. And he should. Because guess what? Hollywood is one of our biggest exports. Always has been and always will be. And as much money as California brings in, that's the bulk of it right there. Majority of the money besides wood is the Hollywood thing. You know, like, that's what they got, that they, you know, that their big state income is. So, and I mean, what's third? Maybe oil. I don't even know if they have any of that left anymore. So, like, yeah. So what else is left there? Nothing. So now they are nothing. So this is what they've got. They got to rebuild. They ain't got time to worry about two genders and all that kind of shit anymore. Maybe the actors will for a little bit, but you're right. The first things first, the superhero movie's dead. The producers have already known that before all this crap was coming down too. Because if Superman does not perform this summer, it's over. We're at the same place that Westerns were in the 80s.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, Craig, I want to ask you, will Hollywood actually abandon politics for entertainment? Because, you know, you guys over at Sidescrollers, you have a very simple mission statement, which is like, we make content for real gamers. We make content for real men. Do you think Hollywood will ever wake up to the idea that, like, people don't want to be preached to? They just want to be entertained?
No. At no point in Hollywood's history has it ever led to the pointed to the idea of removing pandering or preaching or anything. And that will ultimately, like, you know, opening up the initial question was, is the celebrity dead? Right? It's just a different type of celebrity now, right? When the mainstream, when Hollywood could control, they could generate new stars. If one star left, they would just generate a new one, and that's fine. They don't have control over who is generated now. You know who does? YouTube. YouTube has control over of the stars that are generated, and ultimately the algorithm has control over who generates it. And that scares them, right? So, but this is the theme that we've seen with Hollywood throughout an entire, over the last 100 years, is there's always something to push, always some sort of message, some sort of propaganda. And I think that there will be a time where some companies get out of it. Sure. But Hollywood as a whole, as an entire industry, the movie industry, TV industry, no, man, I think we're going to look back on this and be like, they had their chance and they screwed it up. Now, we did see the note that Hollywood said they're willing to work with Trump, right? They're like, well, Biden wasn't looking to help us, but we're open to working with Trump now. And I think that's just simply, they're trying to save their own ass at this point. You see this with all the big tech guys. They will go wherever the wind blows. They have no principles. They're and that's how you see with going back to the larger issues of this the DEI stuff, and all these companies were like, well, we're we're not going to do DEI anymore. Well, it was never important to you to begin with. Then it's just all about whatever.
We don't believe in censorship. All of a sudden,
right? Well, it's good. It's good now. You can say whatever you want. Just say. Don't put.
They made us do it. They made us do it.
Yeah, right. So, no, Hollywood is irrelevant. They produce overfunded, overbloated, over budget. I mean, good for them. If they can afford to lose that money, go crazy. I love going to a theater as much as anybody, but I think that, we will be repurposing theaters for other things in the near future. So.
Well, Brian, as the largest Disney stockholder on the panel, I wanted to ask you, because in this article, they talked about how Disney in particular knows that they messed up and they want to get back to their core audience because their core audience has largely been abandoning them because they don't want their kids indoctrinated into some of this stuff.
Talking to them.
So I want to ask you, what does Hollywood have to do to get back to its core audience in general? Because they seem to have forgotten that not everyone is a radical leftist out there in the country.
Completely ignore the approved messaging and just write good stories. Like, regardless of what is happening, socially in their little section of blue sky, write good stories. Regardless of what your personal opinions are on freedom of speech or how much money we should give to Ukraine or if masks work or whatever, write good stories. Completely take your personal politics out of the story and just write a good story. If the writing gets better, then everything else will follow. And right now the writing has been handcuffed to this, the message. And the problem with that is most of your customer base, most people, Americans, most people going to the movies don't care about your very tiny percentage left-wing sky, blue sky politics. They just want a good story. And I think that the last 10 years of movies, the most popular movies for average consumers have been movies that tell a good, coherent story and don't lean into the approved message. If you go back to telling a good story, then you will go back to making money at the theater.
I want to further that point home a little bit. What was the biggest movie of last year?
Deadpool Wolverine?
I think it was
Inside Out 2.
Inside Out 2.
Yeah.
Right?
I didn't see Inside Out.
So what happened with Inside Out 2? There's a lot of talk building up to Inside Out 2 that, well, there was rumors that they were going to do something with Riley, the lead character, this 13-year-old girl. And they actually, apparently, what happened was she was supposed to have a crush on this older girl who plays hockey in it. And they pulled that. So they pulled that storyline. What ended up happening was parents who have been desperately wanting something that is just a good story from Disney and nothing that felt like propaganda or having to worry about, something they don't want their kids to see, rushed to the theaters, like in literally record numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And they spent money on it because they just got a good story. They didn't have to worry about anything. And word got out. It was a snowball effect. Hey, did you don't have to worry about anything with Inside Out 2. Oh, awesome. It was a great movie. So the bar was low, and then it exceeded the bar because the bar was so low from having to deal with all the insanity. So yes, you're right. It comes back to stories always.
And that's why even a film like Moana 2 was able to get to $1 billion as well, right? And a lot of people early on, for some reason, didn't see that happening. And I remember months ago, I was saying, hey, don't sleep on Moana 2 because, if the film is even halfway decent, it still has a chance of getting into $1 billion. And sure enough, it's basically a decent movie. It's not great. It's nothing to write home about. It's very forgettable, but that means it's also not offensive and therefore is not going to drive people away. And what happens? You have a massive IP in a Moana because, the first movie did okay at the box office, but then that thing took off on physical media and especially on streaming. I mean, the Moana fan base is huge, especially with younger girls. And that is a very not well-fed demographic. And so when Moana 2 came out, Guess what? They went out in droves. They're still going out to go see that movie, and it made over $1 billion and has been a very big success for them. Disney has $3 billion films from last year at this point now, right? Because they had Deadpool, Wolverine, Inside Out 2, and now Moana 2. So that, again, shows you the formula, and the formula can work, but the real question is, does the leadership of Disney actually have the cojones to keep going?
Well, and we saw that with Inside Out 2 because the story came out later that, yes, they did have that gay subplot. And yes, the people who resisted it, guess what? Got fired. They pissed and moaned, but guess what? Disney said, no, fuck you. We want to make some money. So we're cutting all this crap out. So even before Trump was in office, and that's what I'm saying, like, is it still going to take some time to change? Oh, hell yeah. We're going to still get a bunch of stuff. Is there still going to be woke shit? Oh, hell yeah. As long as movies like Wicked keep making money, yes, they're going to keep making crap like that. But Odin's right. I kept telling people the same thing. Moana's going to make money because little girls love Moana and they love Stitch. That's going to be another one this next year that's going to make money regardless. I mean, even Mufasa managed to do better than anybody anticipated it was going to do.
It's still legging out, man.
And that's just because parents are desperate for children's entertainment right now that they can trust. You're 100% right.
I liked Moana too. I'm gonna lie.
Yeah. Well, Alex, one of the interesting parts of this article is that their anti-Trump bias was definitely showing in this article. They talked about Sebastian Stan's The Apprentice movie, which is a biopic about Donald Trump when he was younger. And in the article, they mentioned it was a fact-based biopic about Donald Trump. And if anyone knows anything about this movie, it was basically every leftist fantasy about how stupid and terrible Donald Trump is put into like a narrative. It's so bad that like distributors were passing it up because Trump was putting in a defamation lawsuit against this thing. Because
the fact that Sebastian got nominated for this, it tells you everything you need to know about the Oscars, what I was saying earlier.
And we'll talk about that in a minute. But I want to ask you, Alex, do you think Hollywood will ever stop bashing Trump?
I mean, the people who really hate him eventually will work their way out of a job, I think, maybe. So eventually, yeah. I mean, eventually he's going to be out of the news. Eventually he's got one more term, 4 more years. After that, what are they going to say? Like he's not, the remnants of his legacy is probably what they're going to be complaining about after that. But actually I'm more interested in talking about what parents want, because I got 3 boys. And 100%, I don't go to see Disney movies unless I know for a fact that it's not going to be full of a bunch of crap. And my wife supports us in that, and we're both on the same page as far as that goes. But Disney also has another movie that's coming out soon. In the next couple of years, they're making a Bluey movie. And if anybody follows Bluey, that's going to be a freaking $3 billion movie right there. I'm not even joking. That's going to make so much freaking money. It's ridiculous. The issue is, and if you look into that, the original creator of Bluey, he's like super just non-political, just wants to make good stories for kids, yada, 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 everything that we like to hear as parents. He said after that movie, though, he's going to release the IP and it's going to be run by other people. That's what, like, my wife and I both looked at each other. We were like, oh, God dang it. The movie's going to be the last good freaking Bluey episode. Like, we're just so worried about it. But like Hollywood's been involved and pushing ideology and pushing politics from the beginning. I think there was an interview with Chevy Chase. I think there's a guy from National Lampoon's Vacation where when he was on SNL way back in the day, he's like, oh no, I had a very particular president that I wanted to get elected, and I used SNL as a platform to push for what I wanted to see happen in politics. Like, this is just an open, not even a secret. It's just an open thing that we all know that they do. And I don't think that's necessarily going to change. I think they will probably back down on the rhetoric just because it's so unpopular at this point that they're losing too much money. They're going to learn. They want money more than they want politics. They're going to be like, okay. And I think as far as like the blockbusters go, and as far as like bashing Trump and stuff like that, to address your question, I think what's going to probably happen is you're going to see less of like the huge, big studio movies. I think we're going to have a second film revolution like we had in the 60s. So like in pre-60s, 40s, 50s, all the studios had like a stranglehold on movies. And then we had guys like Scorsese and Lucas and Spielberg, these guerrilla type directors who just went out in the street and made movies, and they became this generation of like, these are the blockbuster guys, these are what they do. Now the studios have another stranglehold on the whole scenario. The history is repeating itself. So I think what we're going to have is we're going to have these indie directors. We're going to YouTube content creators, guys that can have their own movies, produce their own stuff, use things like DaVinci Resolve on their own computers, and make a fantastic film for a fraction of the budget that these $400-500 million movies are doing, and they're going to do better numbers. And that's probably what's going to happen moving forward for this next generation. Is these people like Mr. Beast and these influencers, the YouTube influencers, are going to start making films. There's going to be a new generation of people making films on their own, releasing them on YouTube, and that's going to be the new generation. Whether or not they hit in theaters, maybe theater owners will be like, hey, you know what? I heard you release that movie on YouTube. Let's have it come down here. We'll do ticket sales. Maybe that's going to be the new thing. I'd be interested in doing that. If somebody like Brian and Shane, if they want to make a movie one day and they're like, hey, we crowdfunded $30,000 on GoFundMe, and we're going to go make this movie. And then we contacted a bunch of local theaters, and we're going to show our movie in all these theaters around town. And that's going to be like this new wave of content as far as movies go. I think that's probably where we're going to go if the studios don't change what they're doing like super quick.
You know what new wave of content I'm looking forward to are super chats, particularly from Glitchioki for $2.
You're such a dork.
Hollywood has lost relevancy to video games. What do you guys think of that? Do you think Hollywood, the video game industry, is kind of outpacing Hollywood in terms of relevancy?
I feel like it's been that way for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Potentially, yeah.
It's two different animals, two different audiences in a way. Yeah, there's crossover, but
man, I have deja vu. I feel like we talked about this already.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It's a month.
The problem that the gaming industry has, and I'm sure Craig can talk about this a little bit more, is that it takes so long now to make a big game, right? Like, you can make a smaller game, it's a little different, but like to make a big game, it takes 5, 6, 7 years sometimes, to where a movie, the turnaround is about 2 years total tops, and that's from beginning to end. And you could do a lot in the interim there, to like Inside Out 2 is a great example of how they could change that on the fly, as opposed to a game. It's like once you start to committing to certain things in games, it becomes a much bigger deal, it sounds like, or seems like to me. And one of these games can take down a whole studio sometimes, it feels like. Like if Paramount has a bad movie like Better Man, that's not going to crush the whole studio, right? Like I feel like there's still a bit of a difference between gaming and movies, and people keep trying to draw a parallel as far as like relevancy and all that kind of stuff too. And I think they're two completely different animals, two completely different like audiences and expectations from their audiences as well.
Well, we have a completely different super chat to get to. Darth Maul's lower half for €2. Step down, issue apologies, and decanonize stuff. That seems to be the formula for Hollywood writing itself. Wouldn't you guys agree with that?
Will they do it? Is there an instance of them actually doing that? I'd love to know. No. Okay. They're not going to do it.
I feel like that's what needs to happen with Kurtzman Trek. He needs to step down, issue an apology, and then have everything that he created decanonized. Wouldn't you agree, Brian?
Well, the beauty of Star Trek, unlike Star Wars, like you asked earlier, is there's plenty of in-universe stuff where you can just decanonize. And technically, all this stuff isn't even happening in the same universe as the original stuff anyway.
Not there. There's confirmed 3 separate universes.
Yeah, as they've tried to, obfuscate for years against us when we're like, no, it's in this other universe. And people are like, you're full of shit. They say it's this.
It's canonically confirmed. We did a 30-minute video on the topic. Canonically, there's 3 universes, and what we've been witnessing is a third.
That's what we said like 5-6 years ago, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
There are only 2 genders and 3 universes. So
there are 3 universes.
Shorty Short for $2. Fandom Menace the musical. And guys,
my favorite song from that is "What Happened to Your Face."
Yeah, but that brings us to our next story, which is all about the Oscars, and in particular, this record-breaking nomination for a movie called Emilla, Perez, and the controversy that's now surrounding it. And if you guys, fans of the show, if you watched last week's episode, our guest at that point talked a little bit about this, but we're getting more and more information about it as it comes out, because I refuse to watch this movie. But basically,
it's actually been out for a while.
Yeah, but so like this movie kind of came out of nowhere and swept the Oscars. It's got 13 Oscar nominations, which is like, more than like any other movie that's ever been nominated for an Oscar.
That's not true.
For foreign language.
For foreign language. They keep pushing this, and it's like, that's not true. There's 3 movies that are tied with 14 Oscars. It's Titanic, La La Land, and I can't remember the other one.
Was it Lord of the Rings?
No, I don't think it was one of the Lord of the Rings. It was something else. It was a little.
Well, anyway, this one got more
Either way,
nominations than Dune Part
like
2
Lawrence of
or any
Arabia
of that
or
stuff.
something like that. I can't remember.
So this movie, Emilla Perez, it's being praised as this like great film, but pretty much everyone who's seen this movie doesn't like it, right? So it is a Mexican cartel crime comedy musical. That's how they're billing it as, right? So not only is it a crime movie, not only is it a comedy, but it's also a musical. So it's got music in it. A lot of the nominations are for music, and apparently the music's really bad. It's foreign language, but apparently Selena Gomez, like every native Spanish speaker who listens to her speak Spanish in this movie, is completely turned off because they're like, that's not how you do Spanish. And then the person who plays the titular character, Emilla Perez. So the story is about a Mexican drug cartel leader who transitions into becoming a woman in order to get out of her life of crime in the criminal cartel and not be killed because of it. So basically changing his identity. But the actress who plays this character is an actual trans person. It's a man who has transitioned into becoming a woman. He's had the surgeries and everything. And he was actually in this movie Conclave, which was good up until they got to the ending. Had a lot of problems with that movie. But this person has been nominated for Best Actress. And so like a lot of people are like, well, what does that do to all the real women who were nominated for Best Actress? Couldn't this have
How
been
dare you?
actor nomination? Yeah. Exactly. So like there's a lot of people out there who are like, why is this movie being so celebrated? And also it was shot by a French guy at sound stages in Paris. There's no Mexican representation in this movie whatsoever, and so Mexicans are pissed at it, because they're like, well, it's supposed to be about a Mexican drug
Well, they're
cartel.
beyond pissed because not just that, but because of what it's about.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they're celebrating this freaking cartel leader.
Yeah, like the guy who ran a drug cartel is the hero of this movie.
Yep.
But
And even though they obfuscate it in the movie, sorry, I just want to say this too. The reason they say in the movie is not the real reason why they got a sex change. They got a sex change in real life to avoid getting caught.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Well, Tom, since you're so passionate about this, do you want to just give us a breakdown of your thoughts about this?
Well, you're gonna let Odin go first. I'll let him take it first. But
No, you
either
go
way.
right ahead, Tom. You have
fuck
this baby.
this movie, man. Oh, God. I found out about this movie like 6, 7, 8 months ago, whenever it was it first came out, because Paulie's been talking about it for a while and how it basically just everything about it. Like, and if you've seen any clips from it, you watch it and you're going, how is this not a Saturday Night Live or a Mad TV skit? Like, this movie feels like the type of movie that would get all the Razzies if the Razzies weren't woke now. Right? It's that bad. And you even have people that are coming out that are allies going, look, I'm so happy to see the Academy nominate a trans actress, but this movie was not the movie to do it for. And that's because of just what it's about. And then you have all this other controversy about it too, because it's not a very good movie, right? It's just not that great. It's a very poorly done movie, but it's also nominated in the foreign category and Best Picture. And I think the only fucking reason it's getting any fucking praise now is because of this shit that's going on with politics. And this is what I was saying earlier, is this Oscars is going to be the virtue signal of all virtue signals. It's where the actors show just how disconnected they are. It's where they all come out and they say, Mr. Trump, there's more than two genders. We need to fight climate change. That's what caused the fires and all this other shit. And that's why, this movie is going to get a bunch of Oscars because it swept the Golden Globes. And I'm like, why is this even being nominated? I didn't even know it came to theaters. I thought it was straight to streaming. I didn't realize it was a foreign film to begin with. I thought it was like a Netflix movie or something like that. But regardless,
it is produced by Netflix, right?
It is, but they see Netflix, I guess, must have put it in theaters at some point for it to be eligible. Because for those who don't know, a movie has to be in theaters, I think, for at least a week or two in so many theaters to be considered. And that's why Zaslav put Juror Number 2 in 50 theaters, so it could at least be not possibly nominated for awards, because it was initially supposed to be a streaming film. But anyway, that being said, that's why I think this is one big virtue signal. Wicked wasn't gay enough. Okay, Wicked was gay, but it wasn't gay enough to make the point they're trying to make with this shit.
We need more gay.
20% more gay. Yeah.
25% more gay, yes.
25% more gay. Odin, so, you put on the Raven Awards, which is like a counter to the Oscars. And I actually think that your awards are probably more legit because, as we all know, the Oscars mandates certain diversity quotas in order to simply be nominated. What's your take on Emilla Perez and the controversy surrounding it and the Oscars?
Oh, it's so ridiculous, and to be frank, when it comes to the Raven Awards that I do, it's just, again, it's also one of those just fun troll things you do. It's just like, I got my own award show and we're just gonna do it. But I love it because the people get to nominate things, and there are films that get in that I would rather not be in there, but guess what? The people speak. I wasn't a big fan of Sonic 3. A lot of people were, and so they nominated that for one of the best movies of the year. And so that's the things that happen. But for specifically with Emilla Perez, the thing that is driving me crazy about it is, as y'all have been pointing out, is how it is coming across as such a deliberate attempt by Hollywood to give a middle finger to Trump and to give a middle finger to half the country in many respects as well. And it also shows you this massive disconnect that exists between these Hollywood elites that are a part of the Academy and the same Hollywood elites that are somewhat different in that leadership, producer class, whatever you want to call it, because we've heard so many stories about how Hollywood is going to be shifting away from these things. Well, clearly the people that are a part of the Academy are not a part of that same group, or there's some differences between them. So maybe it's a civil war for all we know.
We're basically talking the money people versus the creatives, basically.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And the other thing too, because I used to follow the Oscars. I used to love them because I love movies, and it's always been a passion of mine. And to get an Oscar used to mean something. It used to be such an important thing to have. And now, right, for the last several years, it's become completely worthless. But even I, when I was tracking it, when it comes to Best Picture, editing is actually the most important nomination to get, because there's almost no movie that's ever won Best Picture that was not nominated for editing. It's very, very rare that it happens. And guess what? Emilla Perez has that editing nomination in there. So there's a good chance that you have a sweep at the Oscars where Emilla Perez wins Best Picture. It's going to be like another Moonlight situation where it's like, what movie? What was that? No one's seen it. No one's seen it, and no one's going to talk about it. The only reason why anyone's talking about it in this situation is because of the actor, right, who is, who has, a mental condition and needs help. And I, kind of hope that he does win, because it'll be interesting to see how many of them are willing to stand up with their principles when, hey, this should be Demi Moore's, comeback year, right? That was kind of the narrative. They love building narratives. They love building stories. They're Hollywood. And that was the big one, is oh, is this going to be Demi Moore's comeback year? She's going to get the Oscar buzz, all this other stuff. But if it goes to a man, oh my goodness. At that point, they either have to completely own it, or they're going to have to, get, I think ultimately whoever wins Best Actress, though, it's going to have some inclusion of, some attack, I think, against the executive order that Trump made. That's what I think is probably going to happen.
I think so.
Well, Alex, who do you think is the audience for a foreign language crime comedy musical?
Not this guy. I'm not going to watch it. And I also have never once in my life watched the Oscars. So I really don't have a huge opinion on who wins some made up bullshit self-congratulatory reward for anything from Hollywood. I like the idea of the fact that we have two people here that have their own award show. We got Odin with his own award show, that the Real Movie Awards, and then we got Craig with the Real Video Game Awards. I love it, man. I want to go watch their stuff. Yeah. I don't give a rat's ass.
Plus, I mix it with Razzies too, because we have our negative awards. We have Shill of the Year. We've got NPC of the Year. It's awesome stuff.
Perfect. No, I have no thought whatsoever. I'm never, ever, ever gonna watch this freaking movie, even if you beg me to make a podcast content about it. I'm like, nope, hard pass. Yep. So, yeah, good for them, I guess. Make a video and or make a movie and sell it to nobody. I don't know. They're not gonna make any money. It doesn't make any sense to me. Oh, let's give this movie an award because it did so good at something. I don't understand it. That's my thoughts.
Well, Brian, as our queer representation on the panel, I'd like to hear your take on this. Who do you think this movie was made for? Because like I have a hard time kind of pegging down the audience other than maybe like liberal
He
Karens.
said pegging down.
Yeah, pegging down.
Apropos, yes.
I have a hard time pegging the audience with this one.
he's talking about a transvestite movie, and he says pegging down. Jesus Christ, dude. That's gross.
But what's your take on that, Brian?
I have the same take that Alex has. I don't understand who it was made for. I have no interest in it. I'm not gonna watch it. And I doubt it deserves any awards. Like, hey, let's give it an award because it's breaking new ground. Like, what new ground? This has been around for a while. And I think it would be silly if if a man won the Oscar.
Does that mean Linda Hunt has to give back her Oscar for winning Best Actress for playing a dude?
Well, she won Best Actress, even though she is still a woman. She was playing a dude in a movie, right?
Yeah, she was playing a dude in a movie, but she won for Best Actress, even though she was playing a dude. I mean, at no point, it wasn't a trans dude. She was just playing a dude. Like,
Well,
that's it. It was just, yeah.
This actor is a woman. So.
This is a dude playing a woman, playing another woman. Let's be real. Or playing a dude pretending to be a woman, pretending to be white.
Pretending
so
to be
confused
the other
right
dude.
You're the dude pretending to be a woman, pretending to be another man, playing a woman. I think I got it right.
Yeah, I don't understand. I don't know why anyone would care about this. It just shows Hollywood is so just into smelling their own farts constantly. And this is what has made the Oscars irrelevant. Years and years of this just sort of sneaking in, and now we're at the final boss of stupid Oscar awards. So I'm over it.
That's
The
funny.
final boss.
And
like
I'm not
that.
even a
That's
video game dude.
Well, Craig, you started your own award show in response to woke award shows or award shows that don't actually take into account the actual content of what they're awarding. What's your take on the Oscars in general? Do you think it's a dying thing? Do you think it's not as influential as it used to be?
No, of course. And to be clear, like our show is not meant to be like anti-woke. It's just meant to be an alternative, right? To the, as you said, fart smelling of the industry, right? It's just meant to be an alternative to the industry perspective. That's it. Just something for gamers by gamers. And people go, it's anti-woke. No. Like we had a developer win an award who's like super duper trans or whatever, right? Because they made a good game. And you know who cared? Nobody, because they made a good game, right? Nobody cared. And it wasn't like plastered all over the game, right? It was like, hey, you made a fun game. So people did. And actually it's funny, while we were doing this guy person, I don't know, they tweeted out, they're about how they like own the chuds. And it's like, dude, that's the thing, is like, you're really looking too much into this. It's just meant to be an alternative. Anyways, your question about the Oscars. Yeah, they've been irrelevant for years and they will continue to be. Their ratings have continuously gone down. It goes back to the earlier conversation about celebrities, right? The celebrity culture as itself is just dissipating so quick. And we will continue to see it dissipate. I mean, so this is a legit question, right? Who would you consider to be a movie star today?
Tom Cruise,
Okay. Tom Cruise has been a movie star for 40 years.
Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt. I could see Chris Pratt.
But Glenn Powell for me recently.
Who's that?
I'll watch Glenn Powell on just about anything right now.
So, but the point is that it was hard to think. You had to really think about it.
Yeah.
Whereas I think for most of Hollywood, you can be like, well, this from boom, 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 go down the line, right? And it's becoming harder and harder to do that. So when you see people pop up on, the Oscars, I don't even know who these people are presenting to. I have no idea who that. So why do I care? The audience for the Oscars is women. Let's be very real about that. And this is not meant to be like a derogatory statement. It's women and gay men, right? So they have been pre-consumed by this and TikTok and social media, and now they can get that information so much quicker and have another dopamine rush, just like everything else that just like every other demographic. So yeah, I mean, it is irrelevant for sure, and it has been irrelevant. It'll continue to be irrelevant, and but it's relevant to them, which is why they'll continue to do it.
Just wait until those songs get performed at this year's.
Oh God!
Oscars.
They aren't doing musical performances this year, I heard.
Oh, isn't that convenient?
Yeah, every other year.
Wow.
Somebody changed that. Yeah.
Wow.
Which is kind of funny. You would think that being so many musicals were nominated, they would do that, but they're
This
not.
is the year Wicked's nominated for stuff. I mean, Lord.
Did nominated get an original song Oscar though? Because unless they put a new song in there, it wasn't eligible.
Oh yeah. Well, actually, yeah, they did put they added one song. I don't know if it was completely original though, or if it was just never in the original show.
Well, guys, speaking of unoriginal, I want to talk really quickly about this Captain Falcon budget spin that recently came out.
I was going to show. Never mind. All right.
Real quick, just want to show you guys this article in Deadline, where Captain America: Brave New World, they're predicting a $95 million opening. But the really interesting thing about this article is that they said that the movie's budget was $180 million. Yeah. So, Odin, I wanted to get your take on this. How full of shit is Deadline right now?
Oh, so full of it, man. And that's why I got to give a shout out to Caroline Reed of was it Forbes, because she is
I
like,
believe so.
yeah, she is like public enemy number one for Disney's budget nonsense, because she finds all of the reports from the UK tax returns and then reports them for us and tells them, okay, here's what they actually spent, here's what their net spend was when you take into account things like tax credits. And it's always hilarious. Like, you just go back even to the last, several years of films that have been released, and there were claims of reports of, Ant-Man Quantumania costing X amount of money, and ends up being like almost like twice as much as what had been reported. And so when you have a situation like this where we know that there were reshoots, we know that this film was delayed, and they're going to tell us that $180 million is the only cost, like the only actual production cost for this movie, which is about what they would spend on a normal film, even with maybe your typical reshoots that are built in. Yeah, I'm sorry. Like, if anyone's actually buying that, it's either showing you that they are a paid off media company, right? That's just doing the shill work of mainstream Hollywood, or we have a bunch of people that are just ignoramuses. And I think that both could potentially be true at the same time.
Tom, you want to weigh in on this?
They're clearly just using the reported original budget.
Mm-hmm.
And whether they're doing it to run interference for Disney or they're just that ignorant, Odin's right. I mean, we've seen the numbers. Now, this is one that they, as far as I know, they shot completely in the U.S., so we won't be able to get into the taxes most likely. But look, they're not going to lie to us and sell us a bridge on this one. We understand what's going on here. There's no way this movie isn't probably the most expensive Marvel movie ever made. In fact, rumors I've been hearing put it up near the Flash range, which, if you guys didn't know, is probably the most expensive movie ever made, I was told by multiple people, because of how many reshoots they had to do for that. And this is in that same area now, because that Flash had about 3 rounds of reshoots. This movie's had about 3 rounds of reshoots. And in this movie, they tried playing games with us from the start, because if you remember, my big joke was, they said, oh, no, guys, we're just reshooting 3 major sequences. I said, what, Act 1, 2, and 3? Because, yeah, at this point, what are you going to do? And that's what we've learned, is they have literally reshot this movie now at least twice, if not 3 times, because one of the actors isn't even in it anymore. We got a Rise of Palpatine situation all over again. The wrestler, what's his name? I forgot his name, but he's like, I'm not even in the movie anymore.
Seth Rollins, yeah.
Yeah. So, and McDonald's is like, screw you, we're putting the toys out a year ahead of time, because they didn't care. Because somebody from Disney asked them not to and asked them to delay it, and they're like, no, we got something else happening that time of the year next year. We're done with this crap. So that tells me that the world is like, screw you, Marvel. And this idea that they think they're going to make $100 million on this movie this weekend, this coming up 2 weeks from now or whatever, bullshit. In what world? This movie's going to open right around the same range as the Marvels and Ant-Man, somewhere in between there. Now, this might get lucky and make a little bit more money than the Marvels, but here's the problem you have with this movie, just like every other movie in the last few years that isn't Spider-Man or Daredevil or a Deadpool, is that this is a sequel to a Disney Plus show that nobody watched.
Well,
Yeah, that's
projections
the
are not
biggest
looking
problem.
great.
It's not even really Captain America
biggest-
4.
Yeah, the biggest problem is not really Captain America, and it's a sequel to a show no one watched. But I gotta push back, and I'm sorry, I gotta push back on this budget thing a little bit, because when the link hit my email that we were going to be talking about this, I had to research it, and the original budget reporting came from World of Real, which has been consistently wrong about a lot of things. I don't know what the real budget is, but when they were saying it was like 375 to $400 million, there's no way they could have known that. So I don't know if Deadline is right, Hollywood Reporter is right. I'm not sure. I don't know. But I don't think it's as high as some people are saying, and I don't think it's as low as what HR is reporting either. I don't think we're ever going to know what it is. But for people to say that it's in the 400 million range, I would like to see the receipts for that. That's all I'm going to say.
They've reshot this movie 3 times, Brian.
And I know some of those reports are also coming from World of Real and GFR.
That doesn't just because that doesn't mean that they're not
but
guessing right.
they're consistently wrong. The same people that said, 2 years ago we're going to get a Terminator movie from Ridley Scott. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Some of the maybe they're right some of the time, but they're also wrong a lot of the time. So we can't take what they say. We have to take what they report with a grain of salt, because they've been consistently wrong with a lot of things, right? So I'm not sending for this movie. I'm not even gonna watch.
No, I get what you're
theaters.
saying, but I guess what I'm saying, Brian, is how can you logically look at something and go, okay, they have reshot this movie now this many times. It was supposed to be out last year.
Right.
Okay.
Well, okay. But it made
So
sense.
all the
to push it a
delays,
year.
all the reshoots, and we
'Cause
know the average price of these Marvel movies is around $200 million anyway.
Right.
In what world can you look at that and believe that they're saying we only spent $180 million on this movie?
No, I think that might be lowballing it. I think you're right. But I think $400 million is really.
We don't know. You're right. I
overestimated.
will agree with you. We don't know the actual number. Like I said, I've been told it's just up there. It's high.
Right.
Because I was told that The Flash was somewhere between $450 and $550 million for all we know. We'll never know.
We'll never
Nobody's
know.
ever going to tell us the truth.
It
'Cause
made
it's the-
sense to push it, though. It made sense to push it because of all the SAG stuff and all that.
But it's like if your starting point is already $180 million, or theoretically $180 million, and you're reshooting the film and you're doing such massive, reshoots as Tom has always been joking about it, like, oh yeah, parts 1, 2, and 3, right? The beginning, middle,
Acts
and
1,
end.
2, and 3, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, right. And so it's like, yeah, it would actually make a lot more sense then for it to actually be closer to $400 million. Now, I think that the only issue with World of Real is that they claim to have a source that's reporting like it cost an extra $100 million, but they also started off with the point, and I would love to know where they got this from, that the original number before reshoots started was 275. And to be honest, like that actually
seems
would,
high.
but that would also still make sense. I mean, the net cost of Quantumania, right? Like net spend after tax credits was $330 million.
But
Doctor
Quantumania
Strange
had
2
a
was
lot-
$350 million.
I think,
I think those two would have a lot more special effects,
Yeah.
but Odin could have a point. Like, we don't know. Well,
Yeah.
That's the thing is now the Hulk's only in the movie for 5 minutes. We have no idea, and that's just by rumor. We have no idea how much the Hulk's in it.
Yeah,
We
the
have no
rumor
idea.
is 5 minutes of Red
Yeah.
Hulk, which we don't know if that's true or not. I don't know. I don't know, but I do know that the website that first started reporting on this and made this sort of like the normal number has been consistently incorrect. And I hate that some people take GFR and World of Real. They take these websites as just fact when there's nothing to back them up at all. In fact, one of those websites is ran by Daniel RBK, which is a known bullshitter. So,
Well, and I'm not a big fan of Baloney either, and some of the other ones, because a lot of their stuff doesn't either. It smells of some kind of bias or bullshit. Usually, either way.
right.
But I mean, that being said, we kind of know the benchmark of these, right? Because look, even
It's around the Marvels, I think.
even the Deadpool movie, the original one, first one, they claimed only cost $80 million, and they got sued because they didn't pay their animators, and that doesn't have hardly anything in it.
Right.
So we know that the threshold is somewhere around 100 million. That Better Man movie that failed, that movie cost $100 million. Why? Because the entire movie, he's an ape.
Right.
Well, also the 307 million, like, so you mentioned the Marvel's cost actually a net of $307 million to make.
Jesus.
So that was something that we actually got from like those tax returns, and that's why, as I mentioned, I do not think it's outside the realm of possibility. Again, we can question the sources of World of Real, but that number of $300 to $400 million absolutely is realistic for sure.
Yeah. That's
So
what
the
I'm
movie's
saying,
got to
Brian.
make like $500 million.
No. It needs to make about $1 billion to break even.
What?
That's where a lot of these movies are,
Yeah.
and that's why these producers are happy that the superhero movie craze is coming to an end,
Mm-hmm.
because they can't afford to keep spending this kind of money on these movies and take these kind of risks anymore. It's not like it was 5-10 years ago when anything you threw Marvel on it, people would go see. Now they won't,
Yeah.
because unless it's a Spider-Man or a Deadpool, they don't trust it.
Going back to the original reason for that, like that's when you stop writing good stories and start massaging your message into everything you write. People they stop coming to watch because they've lost faith that you're going to tell a good story.
I want to get Craig's take on this. Craig, do you think a superhero movie not starring the main character opening on Valentine's Day is going to hit $100 million over 4 days?
That's an awesome question. I'm glad you asked. No. No, it's funny because, look, I'm on the peripheral of the comic book world. You know, when it comes to the superheroes, I know your main ones. I know your Superman. I know your Batman, right? Your Green Lantern, the Incredible Hulk, right? Pretty much anybody in like the Marvel versus Capcom games, I know, right? But you know, when it comes to like that's been one of the most fascinating things about the like expanding out the universes of these. Like, what was that? Was it Blue Beetle that was released? I think it was
Blue
was
Beetle.
It, like, I don't even know what the hell that was. And they're like, it's a new action movie. I'm like, who is Blue Beetle? I have no idea who Blue Beetle is. I have no idea why I should care about him.
Such a weird idea to make that movie. Like,
And wasn't that also released in? I thought that was also released for some reason
It was.
Valentine's Day.
It was
Not
a DC
Valentine's
film,
Day.
but
Yeah.
it was around.
But still, the idea remains like
it makes sense for Captain America to come out on Valentine's Day because they're trying to capture the same results of the first Black Panther.
right. Well, it's an interesting premise. I think that when it comes to this new Captain America, I know some people are like, well, he's not Captain America. It's kind of like that Spider-Man Miles Morales thing, you know. I think you'll learn a lot based off of what the gate looks like for this movie for sure. And I don't think it'll be hitting that 100 million personally.
Yeah, it's not Captain America. It's not. But you know what? Had they made this movie a Falcon movie, I might be more interested because it's just not Captain America. It's not Captain America. That's the problem. And it's not because he's black. It's because he's not Captain America.
Right. And that's the thing. People will take that and they go, "You're so racist."
It's not racist. I like the Falcon character.
He's not even a super soldier. He's like throwing around the the
Captain America
shield
needs
and
to be a
like
super soldier. That's the only way this works.
Yep.
never took the serum.
I hope that they give him the serum. I desperately hope that they give him the serum.
Not to mention, all of the other films are leading very clearly up to Bucky being the one to take it over. And so that moment when it switches over to him, you're like, wait, what? That doesn't make any sense with everything that we've just previously had established.
Plus, Bucky is a super soldier.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And he has a built-in redemption arc, that
Yes.
whole thing.
He's even got a cool arm to be throwing that shield with.
And he fought in World War II. He was an American hero.
He's the White Wolf, man.
Alex, this
Yes,
has
sir.
Harrison Ford in it. Are you going to go see
Don't
it
care.
over the course of 4 days?
Nope. Harrison Ford sold his soul a long time ago. I like Harrison Ford
for a
from
bag of weed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
That's a good impression.
he doesn't love the fans as much as the fans love him. Does that make sense? Is everybody
100%
in
true.
agreement with that? Yeah.
100%
Okay.
true,
Cool.
yeah.
Yeah. You don't give a fuck. But no, I'm not going to watch this movie. I really don't care about Marvel. I'm so happy that there's people in the world like Odin and Tom and Brian who give a shit about the tax returns of Hollywood studios. Fucking bless you people. Swear to God.
Mostly Odin.
I don't. I'm like, it's all a money laundering scheme anyway. If you think any of those numbers are real, I think I got a bridge to sell you. So
Here we
it's all
go.
just-
Conspiracy
it's
time with
No,
Alex.
no, it's true.
Well, he's
though.
not wrong because, as
That's
I always
why-
say, It only matters who's asking.
He's like
Because
the
it
studio.
depends on who's asking. If it's like the press or anybody like that, then the movie made more money than any movie ever did in the history of movies. If you're somebody they might owe money to, then the movie flopped. It didn't make any money. In fact, it'll never ever make money until the history of the end of time.
They're looking at their books and they're like, all right, we need to claim about $400 million in losses on our taxes so that we don't get freaking reamed next year. Yada yada yada. Like, okay, well we're just gonna tell them that the Flash bombed and it actually cost us $400 million to make, so we can claim a freaking failure and claim all those tax returns. Like, it's just so ridiculous. And to me, and I could be wrong, I'm not an expert in this, but to me, it seems so obvious that they're just trying to hide money. And I'm like, there's no freaking way that movie cost that much. They would buy a small country for that much money. And they made a 2-hour movie.
And this is why I love Deadline too, because they do their, financial breakdowns at the end of the year, and they're always a joke. It's hilarious to look at them, but they're also at Disney even more hilarious because they go based off of what Disney's reporting certain revenue streams to be, and it includes streaming revenue, which means that they are talking about Disney paying themselves. So the amount of money they paid themselves to have their movies on their own platform, they're including in profits. So even Deadline is stupid enough to show that stuff. Now, that might just be Deadline doing that, but if that's being reported in any way by Disney, yeah, I mean, that's blatant case.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it when studios have studios within studios, and they'll pay all the different subsidiaries different money, and they claim it.
Oh, 1,000% they do that. They have companies that they run their properties through too, so they don't have to pay property tax. Like, it's all just a freaking shell game for most of these things. So I don't believe any number from any source about any movie, unless it's some indie developer, like I said, who crowdfunded it, and you can actually go look at the receipts. These movies, they do not cost this much money. It's just it's absurd.
Well, guys, we got to launder our own money here at the Salty Nerd Podcast by reading super chats, particularly from Culture Casino, who this was a super chat from the Emilla Perez story. He said for $5, Deadline deleted my comment on that story. So I feel you, Culture. I feel you. Nobody wants to hear the truth anymore. And then we got Mercenary X21. For $2, Hollywood's doomed if Emilla Perez is anything. Yes, indeed. Well, guys, we had a lot to talk about today, and we talked about it. I want to thank my fantastic panel of nerds for being here and sharing their wonderful insights. Odin of OMB Reviews and the Raven Awards, link in the chat somewhere. Any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
Yeah, you can find me on OMB Reviews on YouTube, Odyssey, Rumble, all the platforms, over on Twix as well. And last thoughts would be vote for the Ravens. It's going to be a good time. We have still a lot of time left to vote. I'm going to try and get some movie watch parties going at some point as well, so that way people can see some of the lesser seen films from this past year as well. So make sure you check me out over at OMB Reviews, ombreviews.com, if you want to get more information.
All right. Tom Connors Jr. from Midnight's Edge, master of all cereal. Any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
I like turtles.
Yeah. You can find me at Midnight's Edge After Dark. Yeah, that's about it. All the other channels that we're related to, you can find me there.
Right on. And Stuttering Craig from Sidescrollers, slumming it with us today after
Shut up.
forsaking his family. Spend 2 hours with a bunch of smelly, hairy men.
Nothing
final
makes me
thoughts?
happier than a
Where can
Saturday
people
with
find
a
more
smell.
of you?
Great. Yeah, you guys can find me Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Central Time. If you like riveting conversation about video games, entertainment, and just culture in general, you can find us over on Sidescrollers, over at the Sidescrollers podcast channel. Would love to see you guys there. Say hello if it's your first time popping in. If it's not your first time, then don't say anything.
All right. And Brian from the Popcast, any final thoughts? Where can people find more of you, and when are you transitioning?
After this proctologist appointment, that's when which is coming up here. I'm sad this is ending because in the next hour I gotta be at a proctologist.
You got a finger in your butt?
I'm gonna have my pants down and just
All
in
right.
a cold room.
You usually pay good money for that, Brian.
Hey, when you're leaning over that table, do me a favor. Think of Kadish.
Oh God,
Craig.
It's
Craig!
Mr. Kadish, Craig.
No, sorry, my fault.
Kadish!
Just close your eyes and think of that face right there.
Yeah, I'll have the podcast playing in my ear, my headset.
Ugh.
Yeah, you can find me at the Brain Show today at 6:00. The Brain Show, BRANE. Yeah. And we have the final part of our Alien franchise documentary up on the podcast. Please go check it out. Views aren't great on that, which I'm not surprised. But we dropped last Saturday the final video, which was Alien 3 all the way to Romulus. It's about an hour long. And watch the whole series. If you're into the Alien franchise, there's a lot of good movies and bad movies in that franchise, but we covered it all. And it's the last time I'm ever going to touch the topic of aliens because it's so convoluted and frustrating. But go watch those videos. And in the next couple of weeks, we have a new documentary dropping. So we're trying to do a documentary every couple weeks. And we're starting with like the early 80s and we're going to go all the way to the late 90s this year.
Well, Brian, speaking of the proctologist, we got Australian $2 from Hemorrhoid Hurts. Enjoyable as usual. Proctologist. Now you're talking.
Yeah.
So, something to look forward to.
Good times.
Alex, the salty nerd. What's going on the gaming channel?
More Helldivers content. We're still having a blast with this game. It's coming up on the 1-year anniversary in February 8th, I believe, is the exact date. So we're expecting some kind of a large patch. So if you're interested at all in gaming, if you want to support your boy Dutch Butters, his wholehearted effort is going towards the gaming channel. So please go over there and help support him and come do some Helldiving with us. We do podcasts every single week and some extra content and a lot of fun. Honestly, it's a super chill place to be. And our Discord, if you guys super want to support us, go to saltynerddiscord.com. We have gained over 1,000 members since we launched the gaming channel. So that place is popping. It's a great place to hang out with some fellow gamers and talk about all kinds of things. So head over there, saltynerddiscord.com.
All right. We want to give a big shout out to everyone who gave us super chats throughout the course of the show. Mexican Iron Man, Hemorrhoid Hurts, Darth Maul's lower half, Kalichi Oki, Shorty Short, and Mercenary X21. Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate you, supporting the show and being here in the chat every week and all that good stuff. Be sure to tune in next week. I believe that we have WDW Pro joining us on the show live. And I probably just jinxed it because every time I announce an upcoming guest, they always cancel on me at the last minute. But I want to thank Craig for taking time out of his busy weekend schedule to be here with us on Salty Saturdays. And as always, everyone, tune in next week, same salty time, same salty channel for more Salty Saturdays. And until then, Alex, send them off.
Stay salty, everyone.